Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone, as always, is co-host Alan Niven. But we have also got special guest Doug Cosmo Clifford from, of course, CCR and in a solo project and all kinds of other stuff. Bonjour, Doug. How are you?
I'm terrific. Beautiful day out here, and I'm trying to keep the thunderclouds away. I live up in the mountains, and that's a little bit scary, but one can't control Mother Nature, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm looking at the same thing here. We went from 108 degree Fahrenheit to now it's dark as all heck, and it's only 3 PM, and it's just like, this is not going to be good. But Alan, say bonjour while we're here.
Well, bonjour, senor. You mentioned you're in mountains. Are you not in San Francisco? Are you living in a mountainous area somewhere?
Yes, I've been living in the state of Nevada for 40 years. I moved up originally up to Lake Tahoe, which is a beautiful alpine lake at about 6,000 foot altitude, and I have since moved down into Reno, but I'm still in the mountains at 6,000 feet. I'm surrounded by
yes, you are.
massive pine trees and bears and deer and all the critters that Mother Nature has put here. And I feel badly that we're coming and stealing their turf, but one must do what one must do, unfortunately.
Yeah, they must.
Well, I live in a mountainous area myself. I live in the mountains of Arizona in a little town called Prescott. And I can understand why you like being there. And I can also understand what you're saying when, we move into their territory a little bit, because I've lived here longer than anywhere else that I've lived in my life. And at various times had to share with mountain lion and antelope and what I call boogie pigs, javelinas.
Yes, javelinas,
Yep, they're around all the time. Let me start out. First off, again, I'm going to keep this on a slightly personal level. Just in the last few weeks, I've raised 2 families, and my youngest son, who's 19, has come to me and gone, "Who does that song about looking out a back door? And what's this Credence band?" He is absolutely besotted with your recordings of the last century. And I find that wonderful, because it tells me that there's a vitality that has informed the songs and still sounds fresh and great today. How does that feel to you now when you look back and realize that you're still turning on a young consciousness now? Does that feel good to you?
Oh, it's unbelievable for me. And quite honestly, it's our greatest accomplishment to have 3 generations of fans in a pop medium. That being said, when we were 13 years old, we started the band. At least 3/4 of it, John, Stu, and myself started a band called the Blue Velvets, and we were an instrumental trio. And our dream was, and this is it verbatim, someday we want our songs played on the radio. Well, they've been playing them for 53 years. So the dream lives, and it continues to live. And it's very proud to have been a part of something that was so great and has made millions of people happy all over the world, whether they speak English or not. So it's terrific. It's just absolutely hard to describe.
It's a fantastic legacy, Doug. And for me personally, I did a little bit of producing and composing back in the day. I would have to admit that CCR informed my consciousness in the creative aspect. For example, I'm not sure that the Great White Track Rock Me would exist if there hadn't been a grapevine from CCR, because that blew my young mind. The stretch out of the 2.5, 3.5 minute format I thought was just absolutely fantastic and loved it, and it definitely informed my consciousness. Do you ever play the old songs? Can you go back and do that, or is that too difficult to listen to now?
On occasion, Stu Cook and I had put a band together called Creedence Clearwater Revisited, and we just put that one to rest after 25 years. We had a 5-year plan, and it went 5 times 5. So
wow,
pretty terrific. So there are times when you need to go back, and at least I do or did, and just try to when you play these songs night after night, year round. You don't want any stagnant parts, shall we say, drifting around in your head. So I would go back and shut the lights down low and put on the tracks that I wanted to hear, and just kind of reassess, if you will, and remember that what it felt like when we cut it. Remember what it felt like when it went to the top of the charts. Remember what it felt like when we went out and played on the road. So, I would from time to time go back for a listen.
If I may, let me jump in here for 1 second. I just want to get to this Magic Window album. You recorded this in 1985, and it has sat unused until 2020. What was sort of the recording mind at that time? Was it, I'm going to make an album that's going to be for the MTV era, and here we go? Or how did it end up being a lost album? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I didn't consciously say I'm going to go into the, what is this?
MTV.
MTV, that's right. But I had a studio in my house, and I'd been trying to put bands together, and with another songwriter. In other words, I had 2 other bands that I was trying to get deals for, where there were 2 songwriters, me and one of the other guys in the band, but they, you would think I would be the guy that would not want to go play in the little clubs and do that type of work, to be able to get your chops up for one thing, and to be able to showcase your band to record company people. A couple of them got in two cases, and it kind of crushed the project, because I was paying for everything. I was the guy that was doing all the work as a producer. I produced a bunch of these songs, but they wouldn't go. I can't go back to that, play in there. Why the hell not? We're going in to play some rock and roll music. We might get a deal. What's wrong with that? So anyway, Magic Window was going to be a deal for me as a singer-songwriter. I'd had it with, doing it the other way, and so I worked out the material with a couple of guys, Robbie Polanski, and I wrote 4 of the songs, co-wrote 4 of the songs together. Russell DeShield, who co-produced with me, wrote 1 song together because he was busy with he had a project going, and then he was co-producing with me. We would have written more songs. I wrote 2 by myself without a co-writer. And, when I co-write, I will write with one other person, but I won't write with any more than that. And the reason being is that all of a sudden you have too many cooks in the kitchen, and then all of a sudden people start saying, well, I wrote 2 more lines than you did, so I should get a bigger piece of the action. Jesus, let's just go for the music, and it'll all work out in the wash. It'll all average out, and let's don't start getting mathematics involved and worry about who's going to make more money when we haven't finished the damn song. Maybe it won't make any money, and that was more of the case than not. So anyway, I said, the hell with that. I'm going to put together my best effort, and so I picked the songs that I thought would be a way to show off what I could do. So there was quite a variety of vocal styles and songs, and I think it also made for a more interesting musical adventure. You know, they're all a certain genre, and they're going to get stinky fast. So that was the deal, and I had a deal with Richard Perry. He took me to L.A. and I cut two of the songs that are on that album down in L.A. and another one that they wanted me to cut of theirs, and so they said, "Hey, you passed your audition. Richard's going to be in town. He's going to sign you next week." And next week came, and Richard Perry had a breakdown and checked himself into, I mean, that's what I was told anyway, and got rid of Planet Records, which was, he had a deal, I think, with RCA for that project, and he was done. So I'm at the finish line. I'm just about ready to cross the chalk. The other guy crumbles, you know, and oh my God. So I was a little disheartened and kind of sick of it, and so I put that thing away and didn't want to think much about it, and certainly get into another music project. So I got into a civic project, and in the called Neighbors for Defensible Space. We had a drought situation, so I applied my biological knowledge and firefighting knowledge as well, and put a program together called Neighbors for Defensible Space. I won't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but it was a major undoing of dealing with landowners. The biggest landowner in the Tahoe Basin was the Forest Service, federal government, and then everybody from that point down. Anyway, that program was deemed #1 in the nation by the Department of Agriculture. So they were sending guys up by the busload, literally, and I would take them around and show them what we were doing. And in this very sensitive environment, you couldn't really touch anything, which was good, but since the science wasn't there, and the fuels were, so I managed to dodge that and did it for about 3 years. I was a Citizen of the Year, and other nice things were bestowed on me, a badge, fire chief's badge, and things of that nature. I did it all. There was no money involved. I insisted on it being a volunteer effort from everyone, and it was probably the best thing I ever did as a human being. The music was a different kind of gift, but anyway, that took me away from recording, and I forgot about the tapes and did other projects, and back in the music, and did some. I did 3 albums with Doug Somm, the great Doug Somm. 2 of them I produced, and he's probably the most talented individual I've ever worked with. I mean, the guy he was a bit wacky, but he was spectacular.
He really was. I'm going to just ask Alan this because I want to start talking about the Cosmo Factory. Now, Alan, as a young fan, you went out and bought Cosmo Factory. What did that album, because we're celebrating the 50th anniversary, came out July 16th, 1970. Alan, as a fan, let Doug know what that album meant to you.
Well, with CCR, it started out with me, I think if I remember correctly, I think it was a track called Green River, and then Born on the Bayou. So, I mean, by the time Cosmo Factory came out, I was well connected to my sense of appreciation and love of the band and looking forward to the record. But before we get into the detail of that, I was just going to quickly touch on, Doug just touched on something there that I thought was interesting when he was talking about publishing and fighting over publishing. Because back in the day as a manager, I used to look at bands and think, well, the seeds of destruction are usually found in wives, girlfriends, and fighting over publishing. So I used to try and get my bands to give due credit to who wrote the song, but share all the income that came in, because my point of view was, what profit is of a man if he gets all the publishing but loses his band? As a fan, I'm looking back and going, I suppose there was a lot of that going on with CCR, which was a shame, because Cosmo Factory is a classic record, and if you don't have it in your library or collection, you need to go get it straight away. I mean, Backdoor, Who Stopped the Rain, Run Through the Jungle. Wasn't Traveling Band on that record?
It was. It sure was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a splendid record. And one of the things that I really like about it is the production and recording technique is what I describe as ageless. You can't date it. It hasn't got, for example, in the 80s, I was fighting against the use of drum track, because I felt that they took feel away from the band. And
Lynn
why
drums.
do you have a drummer?
Right. Put Lynn drums on everything.
Oh, it's such an engineering approach. It's not a spirited approach. But Cosmo Factory was just one of the records that has an impact in your life. Did you know it at the time when you were making it, Doug? Did you feel it? Did you feel it was that good a record?
Well, we were on such a fast track. We did put out 3 albums in 1969 alone, 5 albums in 2 years. So we were on a hot streak. I knew
Wait. Please run that by me again. The record company had you make how many albums in how many years?
Well, no, it wasn't the record company. It was us. That was our call, John's call, I should say. We did 3 albums. Here, I'll tell you why. We let 3 albums in 1 year. That's 69, and then 2 albums in 70, and there would have been 3, but Cosmos Factory was on the number 1 for, I think, 9 weeks. And so it had a longer shelf life than anything we had ever put out before. So but John's. I asked him at one point, what's the sprint thing all about? Why are we, taking on so much? I mean, I'm just curious. I'd like to know what this is the plan. What's it all about? And he said, if we're ever off the charts, will be forgotten. And he was dead serious. I said, I don't think so. No one's done it. No one else that I know of has done it. And all of our peers have done just the opposite. They've taken a break and for whatever reason, to tour or to, put together another record or just go see the world. Who knows? But that's why we did it. And the way we did it is we broke a lot of rules. The record company rules. Don't ever release a single in front of an album, because you'll lose album sales. That was one thing. Cosmos Factory had, I believe, 4 singles come out, double-sided hits. So 2 singles, but both sides were charted. And then we put those out before the album was released. We did it again on Green River, I believe, and possibly Willie and the Poor Boys. But the point was that there would be a gap there if we didn't do that, and we would have been off the charts. So John didn't want that to happen, and it didn't.
And by the way, I'll just put this in, Alan. I want you to wrap your head around this. So in January '69, Bayou Country, double platinum. Green River in August, triple platinum. Willie and the Poor Boys in November of '69, double platinum. Cosmo Factory, July '70, 4 times platinum, and then Pendulum in December of '70, platinum. So five albums, 2 years, and if you combine all the sales, we're talking diamond status in terms of, platinum, platinum, platinum. It
Yeah.
is unbelievable and quite frankly unmatched. I mean, I know you look at some of the earlier bands like Aerosmith and Kiss and all, they did 2 a year. And a lot of bands did 2 a year. There was the spring album and the fall album. But 5 multi-platinum albums in under 24 months is wild. It's just wild. I mean,
it just goes to tell you that Doug was in a pretty good little outfit. If I were going to remember a confusion, I won't call it a disappointment, but a confusion for me, I was utterly convinced that they were from Louisiana when I first heard them, and it really surprised me when I found out they were from San Francisco. And I went, how does that happen? They sound so Southern. They sound so Louisiana. I mean, you can almost hear the Spanish moss in the percussion tracks, That was a surprise to me that it sounded so Southern. Were you guys very connected, obviously, but tell me what connected to you to that Southern vibe and the feel?
Well, we all had the same record collection when we started the band, and that's how I met Stu the first day of school in the 7th grade. We were in homeroom and we had our leather jackets and our greasy hair and all the stuff that was cool, James Dean. And anyway, so we started talking about music, and Stu was saying, well, I got,
I mean, did you know, were you aware at that time of, somebody like Dr. John? Because rightly or wrongly, the vibe on your performance of Grapevine, it reminds me a little bit of Dr. John's Walk on Gilded Splinter. They both have that kind of similar atmos and that sense of hoodoo in them. It's just a terrific track. Did you know Dr. John in those days?
We did not. I knew who he was, and I heard some of his music, but at that point we were kind of living in our own little bubble, and it was based on things. Most of the blues stuff that we were getting was from the 50s, and it was so it was like the real rhythm and blues, really
Little Richard
down home. Oh, Little Richard for sure.
Yeah.
And, no question. Fats Domino, the New Orleans bands. They were kind of guys that were on all those records. Just terrific stuff. So that's what I listened to mostly was the black R&B, the real R&B, and Huey Piano Smith and guys that had that great, like the feel in Lucille. I hear that. I just said that, and I got goosebumps. I'm wearing shorts. It's hot. I said that Lucille. I got goosebumps. I still do. That. As a kid, listening to that and saying, "Man, that's what I want to play." And so that would be this stuff that I kind of cut my teeth on. And Jimmy Reed, we actually went and saw Jimmy Reed in Oakland a few times. At a time when you could, then it got to where you couldn't go down there, in the black neighborhoods, because we were white and we were teenagers, and we so. But there was a period of time we were able to go to a lot of those shows. We went and saw James Brown. Man, I gotta tell you, I've never seen anything like this. They stopped the show because the women in the audience were taking their clothes off and throwing them off the stage. I shit you not. And they're 13, 14 years old, and we're going, oh man, this is really cool right now, but what's going to happen in about 5 minutes from now? It was just the coolest thing. And, but that's, that was the template, if you will, for us, and we kept it. We were together for 10 years before we had a first hit record, and we stayed during the psychedelic thing. There was a little psychedelia on the first album. You can hear it, and we hit at it. And there was a little of it in CZQ, and then a lot of the other stuff was just straight blues and on the first record. But my favorite Creedence song is "Born on the Bayou." To me, it's everything that that we embodied. Less is best. I put a quarter note groove on it. Same as Suzy Q. There's a quarter note groove.
Oh, yes, Suzy Q.
That had a steady bass drum part on it, and I played the eighth notes in between the quarter notes on the bass drum.
Yeah.
But Born on the Bayou, there were accents. Ding, ba-da-da. And I used cymbal crashes on 2 and 4 all the time, and it's really present in Born on the Bayou, and that is the rawness. When I went to the quarter note beat, the guitars just came alive. It just opened up that space, and it made it less is best, and made it more powerful, more to the point of what that song is supposed to do.
Well, I got to say, Doug, they're timeless recordings, and from a singular and personal point of view, I got to tip my hat and say thank you very much for both pleasure and inspiration. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you today. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, my pleasure's mine.
Yes,
pleasure's mine.
Absolutely, Doug. And Doug, I do want to ask you one last thing that'll take a sort of a yes or no answer. But on the album that you just put out, is it all the material from 1985, or did you go into the studio and say, okay, I got to fix this, I got to add that, it needs whatever violins, or it needs something? Is it the 1985 album as recorded, or did you sort of sweeten it up for the 2020 release?
Well, I sweetened it up a little bit. I stayed pretty much. What you hear is what you get. I had Russell added a couple of rhythm tracks, guitar rhythm tracks. I did a little surgery. I took a bridge out of Just Another Girl that just never worked. And when that went away, I went, oh man, doctor, plastic surgery works. And so things like that. And then of course the great George Horn did the mastering, and he's been around for 50 years, and as an dear old friend. And we also before mastering, there was some compression. I hit the frequencies where the drum track on the drum tracks would give a little bit more of a, goose it a little bit more, give it a little more power. Back in the day, I was always afraid of, I didn't want to be too loud. How many drummers tell you that? But anyway, I was focusing on the vocal, the best I've ever sung on in my life. So, but I worked hard at it. When you have a studio in the house, your own house, you're not looking over your shoulder for the clock to run out. So I took my time with my vocals. I thought that was one of the biggest difference between that and my first solo album. And so I'm real pleased the way it worked out. We added, I think, a cowbell, a very light cowbell in a couple of tracks, just because I thought
more cowbell.
More cowbell.
More cowbell.
Exactly right.
We always need more cowbell anyway. On that, folks, Magic Windows.
I wanted to play lead cowbell.
Yeah, lead cowbell. That's what I play in bands when I'm in a band. Lead cowbell and lead triangle. But Magic Windows out now, and of course, 50 years of Cosmo's Factory. Oh my God, 50 years. Oh boy, it goes quick. As we say in Montreal, merci. And Alan, always a pleasure. Merci. And there we go. We have done. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Doug.
And let's do another one soon. Anytime you've got anything else, just reach out and we'll do more.
I like it.
There you go. Thank you.
Ever wonder what Vince Neil would sound like if he was a black belt in Taekwondo? What about what his favorite McDonald's menu item is? Just hold the pickles. This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.